When the lawyer locked the heavy oak doors of grandmother's house and handed the keys to us, there was a strange silence in the hallway. Dust hung in the air like a ghost that refused to leave. My sister Liza walked ahead with her usual restless steps, opening drawers, shaking off old tablecloths, as if she wanted to take control of the house as quickly as possible. My brother Anton followed behind, always skeptical, muttering that we should just get the place cleaned, sell it, and divide the money. I, the youngest, wasn't sure what I felt. For me, this house smelled of childhood summers, of jam boiling in the kitchen, of Grandma's low voice humming lullabies in the evenings. Now the smell was different, dry, stale, heavy. It pressed down on us, as if the walls themselves carried secrets. Liza opened the wardrobe in the hallway first, rummaging through coats, scarves, and hats. "Nothing here except moths," she said, wrinkling her nose. Anton laughed and pulled out a fur hat, shaking dust across the floor. But then, in the bedroom, behind the old dresser, we noticed something unusual, a wardrobe that none of us remembered. "Did this even exist before?" I asked. Liza ran her fingers across the wooden frame. The lock was rusted, the key stuck inside. Anton tried to turn it, but it didn't budge. Finally, Liza tugged hard, and the door creaked open, groaning like something alive. Inside were piles of old dresses, neatly folded blankets, and on the top shelf, a leather-bound notebook, dark with age. Liza reached for it first, but I snatched it from her hands before I even realized what I was doing. Something in me wanted to be the first to touch it, as if it was meant for me. The leather was cracked, the pages yellowed, but the handwriting inside was firm, deliberate. On the first page, dated 50 years ago, was a single line. "To hide the truth is to protect the family, but sometimes the truth finds its own way out." Liza leaned over my shoulder. "Oh God, it's just one of her boring diaries," she scoffed. Anton grunted. "Yeah, she always wrote nonsense. Remember all those notes on scraps of paper?" But something told me this was different. The handwriting was sharper, almost urgent, as if she wanted us to find it. I turned the page. The words leapt at me, heavy and cold. "One of the children is not mine." And I swore I would take this secret with me to the grave. The three of us froze. Liza gasped so loudly that the echo traveled down the hallway. Anton grabbed the notebook from my hands and scanned the page, his eyes narrowing. "She's lying. This is just some senile rambling," he said, but his voice trembled. Liza's face drained of color. "Not hers. What does that even mean? One of us? Which one of us?" I felt my throat close. My hands were trembling, not from the cold, but from the weight of the words. Grandma, the woman who seemed to hold our family together, had been hiding something like this all along. I looked around the room differently now. The photographs on the dresser, the family portraits in the hall, the shelves of knickknacks, all of it suddenly seemed staged, like props in a play we hadn't understood. Anton slammed the notebook shut and tossed it on the bed. "This is crap. She probably wrote it to entertain herself." But he couldn't meet our eyes. Liza sat down heavily in the chair, pressing her palms against her temples. "What if it's true? What if one of us isn't really her grandchild?" My heart raced. My chest ached with the thought. Which of us did she mean? And why keep it a secret for so long? I opened the notebook again despite Anton's protest. The next entries were fragmented, vague. She wrote of betrayals, of nights when she cried alone, of promises she had to keep. Then a line, underlined twice. "The truth will hurt them more than the lie ever could." I read it aloud. Liza covered her mouth, as if trying to stop a scream. Anton swore under his breath. "We shouldn't be reading this. It's poison." But none of us could stop. Every page pulled us deeper. Every word tightened the knot in my stomach. Grandma wrote about a man, never naming him, only calling him the shadow in the doorway. She mentioned late-night visits, whispers no one else could hear, and the decision she made to never reveal his name. Then came the entry that froze us all. Only one child was born of love, the others born of duty. But even the child of love carries a truth they must never know. Liza stood abruptly. "I can't do this. I can't sit here and wonder who she meant. I need to know." She stormed out of the room, her footsteps echoing down the stairs. Anton stayed quiet, staring at the floor. I held the journal tightly, afraid that if I let go it would disappear, and with it the chance to understand. The silence stretched until Anton finally muttered, "If this gets out, if anyone else finds out, we're ruined." "Ruined how?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't answer. He just looked at me with a strange expression, like he knew more than he wanted to admit. My pulse quickened. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about Grandma's secrets. It was about ours. And maybe Anton already suspected which one of us didn't belong. The wardrobe door creaked again behind us, as if the house itself was listening. Liza didn't come back that evening. She locked herself in the guest room, and when I knocked, she snapped at me to leave her alone. Anton poured himself a drink in the kitchen and kept muttering that we should burn the damn journal and pretend we never saw it. But I couldn't sleep. The notebook lay heavy on the nightstand beside me, as if its words were breathing in the dark. I opened it again, hoping to find something clear, something that would tell me which of us she meant. But all I found were fragments, names scratched out, dates smudged, whole sentences abruptly ending in dashes. It felt like Grandma wanted to confess, but also wanted to torment us with uncertainty. By morning, the air in the house was thick with tension. Liza emerged with red eyes and demanded we sit down at the kitchen table. "We need to figure this out," she said, her voice raw. Anton groaned. "There's nothing to figure out. She was old, her mind was gone. It's meaningless." But his hands trembled as he lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in years. I slid the journal across the table toward Liza. She opened to a page halfway through. Her finger tapped a sentence. "I gave one of them away, though they will never know it. A trade, a secret sealed." Liza's voice cracked. "A trade? What does that mean?" Anton snatched the book and read the line over and over, his jaw tightening. "It doesn't mean anything. She was losing it." "Stop saying that." Liza slammed her fist against the table. "You're scared. I can see it. You think it's you, don't you?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Anton's face hardened. "Watch your mouth." "No," Liza pressed on. "It explains why she always treated you differently. You noticed it too, didn't you? The way she never trusted you with anything important." Anton stood so fast his chair scraped across the floor. His face was flushed, his voice low and dangerous. "Say that again, Liza." I stepped between them, my heart pounding. "Stop it, both of you." This is exactly what she wrote about. The truth tearing us apart. But even as I said it, a part of me couldn't deny what Liza pointed out. Grandma had always been harder on Anton. He was the first to be punished, the last to be forgiven. But was that enough to prove anything? That night, I heard Liza whispering on the phone in the hallway. I crept closer and caught fragments. Maybe a DNA test. No, they don't have to know yet. Yes, I'll get his toothbrush. My stomach dropped. She was planning to test Anton behind his back. The next morning, Anton announced he was leaving. "I've had enough of this circus," he said, stuffing clothes into his bag. "Sell the house. Keep the money. I don't care." But as he walked out, Liza appeared with the journal in her hands. "You can't just run away. What if you're the one?" He froze in the doorway. His voice was hoarse. "And what if it's you?" Silence stretched. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in Liza's eyes. She hugged the journal to her chest, as if it could protect her. Anton stormed out, the door slamming so hard the walls rattled. The house felt emptier without him, but also more dangerous, as if the secrets had more room to spread. Liza and I sat in the living room that night, the journal open between us like a loaded weapon. She traced the words with her finger, whispering them as if trying to decode a spell. Only one child was born of love, the others born of duty. "Do you think she meant Mom?" I asked quietly. Liza looked up. What if Mom wasn't really her daughter? The thought chilled me. All my life, I had believed in the roots of our family tree. Now it felt like the roots were rotten, twisting in directions we couldn't see. A week later, Anton returned. He looked exhausted, unshaven, carrying a box of old photographs he had dug out of his garage. "I remembered something," he said, dropping the box on the table. Inside were dozens of black and white photos of Grandma, Grandpa, and their children. But in some of them, there was a man none of us recognized. He appeared at family picnics, in the background of birthday parties, even standing beside Grandma at the front porch. Always on the edge, never fully in the frame. "Who is he?" I whispered. Anton shook his head. "No idea, but he's in too many pictures to be a stranger." Liza flipped through them rapidly, her breathing quickening. Then she found one photo that made her freeze. Grandma holding a baby, smiling, but the baby's face was scratched out with a pen. "Oh my God," Liza whispered. She erased the face. Anton swore under his breath. She wasn't just hiding something. She was hiding someone. The three of us stared at the photo, our fear binding us together and yet pushing us apart. The journal lay open beside the box, its words whispering louder than ever. We weren't just trying to uncover Grandma's past. We were unraveling our own, and none of us knew if the truth would set us free or destroy us. The following days dragged on like a fever. We tiptoed around each other, speaking only when necessary, each of us secretly reading and rereading the journal, hoping to find a clue that would point the finger away from ourselves. I caught Liza sneaking into my room at night to take it from my nightstand, and I admit I did the same when she kept it hidden under her pillow. Anton refused to touch it anymore, but I noticed him studying the photographs for hours, tracing the outlines of that faceless baby with his finger, his jaw clenched tight. The house grew colder, even though it was the middle of summer. On the third evening, a knock startled us. None of us had been expecting visitors. Anton went to the door, and when he opened it, a woman in her late 50s stood there, holding a worn leather bag. Her eyes were sharp, her hair tied back in a severe bun. "You must be Natalia's grandchildren," she said. "I'm Vera." The name struck me with a faint memory. Grandma had once mentioned a childhood friend named Vera, but it had been years ago, and she had always brushed past it quickly. Liza frowned. "Why are you here?" Vera stepped inside, without waiting for an invitation. "Because I know what you found." My blood ran cold. She put her bag down and sat at the table as if she belonged there. "The journal," she said simply. "I told her to burn it." She didn't listen. Liza clutched the book to her chest instinctively, as if afraid this stranger would snatch it. Anton narrowed his eyes. "And how would you know about it?" Vera looked at him with a strange mix of pity and disdain. "Because I was there. Because the secret isn't just hers. It's mine too." Silence swallowed the room. I leaned forward, my throat dry. "Then tell us." Vera sighed and rubbed her temples. "Your grandmother and I grew up together. We shared everything, clothes, secrets, even men. When she married your grandfather, she thought she had found safety. But there was another man. He was dangerous, charming, impossible to resist. Natalia called him her shadow." The name hit me like a punch. The journal's words came alive, the shadow in the doorway. Liza's grip tightened on the book. Who was he? Vera hesitated, then shook her head. "That doesn't matter now. What matters is that she carried his child. And when the baby was born, she and I made a choice that changed everything." Anton's face hardened. "What kind of choice?" Vera's eyes glistened. "She gave the child away. To me." The room tilted. My breath caught in my chest. Liza's mouth dropped open. Anton's fist slammed the table. "You expect us to believe this?" "You don't have to believe," Vera said calmly. "I raised that child as my own." Natalia visited often, always torn apart by guilt, but determined to protect her other children from shame. That's what the journal is about. Not just the betrayal, but the sacrifice. My thoughts spun wildly. If what she said was true, then one of us wasn't really Grandma's grandchild at all. But it also meant there was someone else out there, someone connected to us by blood, hidden away. Liza whispered, "Who is it? Who did you raise?" Vera shook her head again. "That's not my story to tell. But I can show you something." She pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag and slid it across the table. It was an old letter, the ink faded but still legible. I leaned in and read aloud. "Vera, keep her safe. No one must know. Promise me. If anyone ever asks, say she is yours. I cannot destroy my family. Natalia." Liza gasped and covered her mouth. Anton's face twisted in anger. "So it was a girl." Vera nodded slowly. "Yes, and she grew up never knowing the truth. But she deserves to. You deserve to." Natalia wanted you to find the journal, even if she was too afraid to admit it out loud. My hands shook as I placed the letter beside the journal. It was undeniable now. This wasn't senile rambling. This was real. But the question clawed at me. If there was another child, then what did the line, "One of them is not mine," mean? Were we all still suspects? Or had Grandma been writing about something else entirely? Vera stood. "I've said enough. The rest is for you to uncover. But I'll tell you this. The truth has a way of finding its way out, whether you want it or not." She left as abruptly as she had come, the door closing softly behind her. For a long time, none of us spoke. Finally, Liza whispered, "She's lying. She has to be lying." Anton shook his head. "If she's lying, why risk coming here? Why show us that letter?" His eyes flicked to me, sharp and accusing. "Maybe she came because she wanted you to know something." "Me?" I asked, my chest tightening. "Why me?" Anton didn't answer, but the weight of his stare made me shiver. That night, I dreamt of the faceless baby again. Only this time the scratched-out photograph bled ink until it covered my hands. When I woke, the journal was lying open on the floor beside my bed, though I was certain I had left it closed. A new page caught my eye, one I swore hadn't been there before. The entry was dated decades ago. I traded blood for silence. But silence can't last forever. One day, they will find her. And when they do, they'll hate me for what I did. My heart pounded. They will find her. Liza and Anton still slept down the hall, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was pushing us closer to a truth none of us were ready to hear. The morning after Vera's visit, the house felt heavier, like the air had thickened with secrets. Liza avoided looking at me, while Anton stayed outside, chopping wood long after he had enough for the fireplace. Every strike of the axe echoed like a warning. I clutched the journal to my chest as if it might shield me from what was coming. But the truth pressed in from all sides. That afternoon, we decided to confront Vera again. We needed more answers, needed to know who she had raised. But when we drove into the small town nearby and asked for her, the shopkeeper frowned. "Vera? She passed away 2 years ago. Car accident. Nasty one. Why do you ask?" Liza went pale. Anton's hand gripped the counter so hard his knuckles turned white. "That's not possible," I whispered. "She was in our house yesterday." The shopkeeper shrugged. "Maybe you're thinking of someone else." But I knew it wasn't a mistake. I remembered the lines on her face, the coldness in her voice, the weight of the letter she had given us. Vera had been there. Unless she hadn't. On the drive back, no one spoke. The silence grew suffocating, broken only when Anton muttered, "We should burn the journal. Right now." "No," I snapped. "If we do that, we'll never know the truth." "Maybe that's the point," he shot back. "Maybe Grandma wanted to bury it with her, and we're the fools digging it back up. She left it for us," I argued. "She wanted us to know." Liza's voice trembled from the back seat. "Or maybe she wanted us to destroy each other. And it's working." The car filled with her words, bitter and sharp. By the time we returned to the house, the tension had reached a breaking point. That night, a storm rolled in. The wind howled through the cracks in the old windows, and the rain battered the roof like fists. We huddled in separate rooms, none of us willing to sit together anymore. I tried to sleep, but the thunder kept dragging me awake. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, dragging slightly against the floorboards. I thought it was Anton, but when I stepped out, the corridor was empty. My skin prickled. Back in my room, the journal lay open again, though I was sure I had locked it in the drawer. Another new entry glared up at me, in handwriting I recognized but couldn't place. One of them already knows. One of them has always known. My stomach twisted. Who? Liza? Anton? Or me? In the morning, the journal was gone. We tore the house apart, searching under mattresses, inside cabinets, even ripping up the floorboards in desperation. Nothing. Liza accused Anton of hiding it. Anton swore he hadn't touched it, and both of them turned on me when they saw the panic in my face. "You're the one obsessed with it," Anton said, his eyes dark. "Maybe you're the one keeping secrets." "That doesn't even make sense," I shouted back. "Why would I hide it from myself?" Liza's voice broke. "Because maybe it's about you." The word silenced us. She pressed a trembling hand to her lips, as if she regretted them instantly, but the damage was done. For the rest of the day, Anton and Liza whispered together, leaving me out. Every time I entered a room, their voices stopped. I felt like the walls were closing in, squeezing me out of my own family. By evening, the storm had knocked out the power. We lit candles, their flickering light throwing long shadows against the walls. I sat alone, listening to the whisper of the wind, when a crash echoed from upstairs. Rushing to the source, I found Anton standing over a broken mirror in Grandma's old bedroom. His reflection stared back at him in fragments, distorted and cruel. In his hand was the journal. My breath caught. "You found it." He shook his head. "It wasn't me. It was here, waiting." He opened it to a page near the end. "Listen." His voice was low, trembling. He read, The real danger is not in who belongs and who does not. The real danger is in who knows and chooses silence. Liza appeared in the doorway, pale and shaking. Stop reading it, she begged. Please, just stop. Anton's voice rose. Don't you get it? She wanted us to destroy each other. She planted this seed and watched it grow. No, I whispered, stepping closer. She was trying to confess, to make it right. Anton's laughter was bitter. Right? There's no right left. We're just pawns in her little game. He hurled the book at the wall, pages tearing loose like wounded birds. The candles flickered violently, and for a moment, I swore I saw a shadow move across the room that wasn't ours. Liza screamed. We scrambled to pick up the torn pages, but some were already missing, as if swallowed by the dark. In the chaos, Anton turned on me, his face twisted with fury. You wanted this truth so badly? Then you live with it. You carry it. I'm done. He stormed out into the storm, disappearing into the night. Liza collapsed to her knees, sobbing. I held her, but her body shook as if she no longer trusted me. When the house fell silent again, I realized something terrifying. Anton wasn't coming back. Not that night. Maybe not ever. And the journal, though torn and bloodied with rain, still pulsed with secrets that refused to stay buried. The storm lasted through the night, and when dawn finally broke, the house felt emptier than ever. Anton hadn't returned. His boots were gone, his coat missing from the hook. Liza sat at the kitchen table, her eyes swollen from crying, refusing to speak to me. The journal lay between us, torn and battered, its remaining pages clinging together as if they, too, feared being ripped apart. I opened it with trembling hands, though every instinct screamed at me to stop. Near the very end, I found a page we hadn't seen before. Grandma's handwriting cut through the silence. I raised them in silence, knowing the truth would rot them from within. The bloodline isn't theirs alone. One was born of betrayal. One was born of love. But only one will survive with the truth intact. My pulse hammered in my ears. I read the lines aloud, and Liza flinched like I'd struck her. What does that mean? She whispered. Her voice cracked under the weight of fear. Born of betrayal? Which one of us? I shook my head, though dread coiled in my stomach. I don't know. But the truth was clawing at me from some buried corner of memory. My mother's arguments with Grandma, the hushed voices late at night, the strange way Grandma sometimes looked at Anton as if he wasn't hers to claim. Liza suddenly stood, snatching the journal from my hands. I can't do this anymore, she said, her voice rising. I can't keep tearing myself apart wondering if I even belong here. She held the journal over the fire, her hands trembling. The flames reached greedily for the fragile paper. Stop! I lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. If you burn it, we'll never know. Her eyes filled with rage. Maybe not knowing is better. Look at us. Anton is gone, you're obsessed, and I can't breathe under this weight anymore. For a moment, the heat from the fire seared between us, the book hovering inches above the flames. I thought she would let it go, watch everything burn. But then she froze, her face pale. Listen, she whispered. The sound of footsteps on the porch. Heavy, slow. My heart jumped into my throat. I pulled Liza back, and together we watched the door rattle against the wind. A shadow moved outside, tall, deliberate. Anton, Liza breathed, but her voice lacked conviction. The door creaked open. He stood there, drenched, his eyes bloodshot, his hands trembling as if he had been clutching something too tightly for too long. He stepped inside without a word, his gaze darting between us and the journal still clutched in Liza's hand. You kept reading, he said, his voice hoarse. Of course you did. Anton, we thought. I started, but he cut me off with a bitter laugh. You thought I'd run? You thought I'd leave you here with her poison? He pointed at the journal. That book is death. Don't you see? She wanted us to fight over it until nothing was left. His words struck deep, but I couldn't let go. Then why did she write it? Why keep it at all? He stepped closer, water dripping from his hair, his expression fractured between fury and despair. Because she hated us, he whispered. Because we weren't what she wanted. I know the truth. Liza's voice shook. What truth? Anton's jaw clenched, his eyes locked on me. It wasn't you, and it wasn't her, he said. It was me. I was the betrayal. My breath caught. He laughed bitterly. I heard them once, Grandma and Mother. Late at night, in the kitchen. I wasn't supposed to. I was the mistake, the one she tried to erase from the family tree. She said it plain. That's why she looked at me the way she did. That's why nothing ever felt right. He tore the journal from Liza's grip and held it over the fire. For a moment, I thought he would let it burn and everything. But instead, he opened to a page in the middle and shoved it toward me. Read it. My hands shook as I took it. The ink was smeared from water, but the words were legible enough. The child she bore was not my son's. I kept him under my roof, but never in my heart. I will not name him in the will. He is not mine. The room spun. My knees weakened. Anton's voice thundered through the silence. Do you see now? Do you finally see? Liza's sobs broke through, sharp and jagged. No, she cried. No, you're my brother. You're ours. But Anton shook his head, his face hardened by years of invisible scars. I was never yours, and she wanted me to suffer until the end. I tried to reach for him, to steady him, but he shoved me back. Don't touch me. Don't act like you care now. You wanted the truth. Well, here it is. The journal trembled in his grip. The fire roared higher, as if waiting to consume it. I lunged forward, desperate to stop him, but he made his choice. He threw the book into the flames. The paper curled instantly, blackening as smoke filled the room. Liza screamed, trying to pull it out, but it was too late. The words, the secrets, the curses, all of it turned to ash before our eyes. Anton stood motionless, watching it burn. It's over, he said finally, his voice hollow. She doesn't win anymore. But as the last page crumbled into dust, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had lost more than we had saved. The truth was gone, yes, but so was any chance of healing what it had destroyed between us. Anton turned and walked back into the storm without another word. Liza collapsed against me, her tears soaking my shirt. The fire crackled, devouring the last remnants of the journal. And in that silence, I realized the climax wasn't the burning of the book. It was the shattering of the bond we once thought unbreakable. The fire died down by morning, leaving behind only gray ash and the charred skeleton of the journal. The smell of smoke clung to everything, seeping into the walls, the curtains, even into our clothes. I sat in the silence, staring at the blackened remains, waiting for Anton to come back. But the hours dragged on, and the only sounds were Liza's quiet sobs and the occasional groan of the old house against the wind. He wasn't coming. Not this time. Liza tried to busy herself with chores, but her movements were mechanical, detached. She swept ashes that only scattered wider, tried to cook, but forgot the water on the stove until the pot boiled dry. Her hands trembled constantly, as if the weight of everything had rooted itself into her bones. I wanted to comfort her, but my words felt useless, thin. What could I possibly say? That everything would be fine? That Anton would return, and we would laugh about this one day? Lies, all of it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The shadows on the ceiling seemed to shift and breathe, and every creak of the floorboards set my heart racing. I dreamed of Anton standing at the end of my bed, his face wet with rain, his eyes hollow, whispering, "You wanted the truth." When I woke, the room was empty, but the echo of his words lingered like smoke in my chest. Days passed. Still no sign of him. We called his phone, checked the town, asked neighbors. Nothing. He had vanished into the storm as if swallowed whole. Liza grew quieter with each passing day, her grief mutating into something darker, a numbness, a hollow acceptance. One evening, I found her sitting in front of the fireplace, staring at the ashes as though she could still read words in them. "Do you ever wonder," she said softly, "if we were better off not knowing?" I hesitated, the answer stuck in my throat. "Maybe," I whispered. She turned to me, her face pale, her eyes empty. "Because now I can't look at him in my memories the same way. I can't even look at myself. If he wasn't really one of us, then what am I?" I reached for her hand, but she pulled away, retreating into herself. I realized then that the journal hadn't just taken Anton from us. It had taken Liza too. She was still here, but she was no longer whole. A week later, I returned to the old wardrobe where we had found the journal, searching for something, anything that might anchor me to the past. In the back, under a false bottom I hadn't noticed before, I found a small, sealed envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper in Grandma's handwriting. "If you are reading this, then the truth has already begun to unravel. You may hate me for what I've done, but know this, Secrets are heavier than graves. I carried them so you wouldn't have to. If you keep digging, they will consume you too. My chest tightened. Was this her warning? Her plea for mercy? Or just another manipulation? One last twist of the knife? I didn't show it to Liza. I couldn't. She was already unraveling, and this would only push her further. Instead, I slipped it back into the envelope and hid it under the floorboards, where it would wait for another generation, or maybe never be found again. The house no longer felt like ours. It was a mausoleum of voices, a place where walls whispered and shadows remembered. Liza and I packed what little we could and left. We didn't speak much during the drive, the silence stretching between us like a canyon. When we finally reached the city, she kissed me on the cheek, whispered goodbye, and walked away. Not forever, perhaps, but in that moment, I knew she needed distance, space to heal in her own way, or to disappear like Anton had. And so I was left alone, holding the weight of ashes and unanswered questions. Months passed. I tried to rebuild a life, but the past followed me everywhere. Sometimes, late at night, I swore I could still smell the smoke of burning pages. Sometimes I dreamed of Anton, standing in the rain, whispering the same words. You wanted the truth. Other times, I saw Liza staring at me from across a dark room, her eyes empty, her lips trembling with unspoken accusations. The journal was gone, but it hadn't really left. Its words had carved themselves into us, into the spaces between who we were and who we could have been. One evening, unable to sleep, I sat by the window, watching the city lights blur in the rain. A question kept echoing in my head, louder than the storm outside. Was it better to know, even if it destroyed us, or would ignorance have been the kinder mercy? I'll never know. All I know is that the truth, once uncovered, doesn't vanish with the ashes. It lingers, haunting, reshaping every memory. And though the journal is gone, I still feel its weight pressing down on me. Sometimes I wonder if that was Grandma's final gift, or her final curse.